Hi, welcome along to this third live Q&A with me, Dr. Marianne Trent, and I am here to support you if you are an aspiring clinical psychologist. So if you are, you will all the more likely know that, of course, right now is prime time for application season for the Clearinghouse scheme for clinical psychology. I can see that I've got some people watching. If you could just let me know that you can hear me loud and clear. If you haven't been to any streamings via StreamYard before, you will come up in the comments as like LinkedIn user or Facebook user or Twitter user or YouTube user. If you have been on StreamYard before, StreamYard.com, and given it permission to see your face, it will display your name. So yeah, I'm happy with either way. If you want to watch me anonymously, easy for some to say, then that's okay. But obviously, if you want me to be able to know that it's you, then you might just need to visit StreamYard. But lovely, we've got our first confirmation that things are doing what they are supposed to be. Hope you're okay. I don't know if any of you have caught my previous question times. Not quite Nicholas Dimbleby, am I? Yeah, this is the third in our, thank you, Samuel James. Nice name, Samuel James Fall. Yeah, this is the third in our series of 3 planned lives for this season. 20. Oh, we've got someone from YouTube as well. We've got all of our streaming platforms. We're looking for someone from Twitter, just to get the 4 going. Oh, I am on Twitter, but I've forgotten to add my Twitter logo. I've obviously downloaded slightly the wrong overlay. That's the technical term. There we go. Another lovely LinkedIn lady. There we go. Thank you, Sophia. And I haven't name checked you, Elena. Thank you too. So who am I? Hopefully you know who I am because you're on my platforms. But let me just give you a bit of background in case someone's like, quick, go and watch Marianne. And you're like, who's Marianne? Let me tell you who I am. So I am Dr. Marianne Trent, but please do call me Marianne. And I am a clinical psychologist, and I qualified in 2011. So I was applying, perhaps doing exactly what you're doing, third time lucky, in 2007, which was not the easiest time for me, which you can absolutely read more about in this little baby if you haven't already. But it's the clinical, that's the wrong side to use, the Clinical Psychologist Collective. This is the hardback version. Advice and guidance for aspiring clinical psychologists, and there's the paperback version. Ooh, it's hard to work out. It's all a bit backwards with StreamYard. Yes, but there's my story in there about how I came to clinical psychology and my skills and tips there as well, and also 57 other psychologists in there too. So yeah, I now work solely in private practice since April. Before that I was working in the NHS and in private practice. Oh, lovely. Perfect, Elena. So Elena, you bought it yesterday. Well, then you can absolutely dive in once you've read some or all of it. Some people are telling me they're just like devouring it in like a day or two. You can absolutely leave your verified purchase review. Anybody can who's got a verified purchase review on Amazon to win a one-to-one with me for an hour. It's your choice of how you use the hour. We could use it to do some mentoring. We could use it to do some coaching. We could use it to look at your DClinPsy form. Absolutely up to you. And you can enter that competition until a week on Sunday. Let me let you know what the date is for that. So until the 23rd, midnight on the 23rd of October. Is that right? I think that's right. Yeah. No, that's the Saturday, the 24th. Sorry, guys. So, oh, there we go. Samuel James. I just want to say your name all the time, Samuel James. Do people call you Sam? People call you Sammy J. I bet you're like, no one has ever called me Sammy J. Please never do that again, Marianne. Really great book, brings the lofty heights of CP back to earth. Yes, good. And me calling you Sammy J has probably also you're always going to be Sammy J to me. Is that okay? Yes, sorry about that. You're probably like, I hate that my mum calls me that. I have had a copy since it was first released. However, I've been saving it to read one on holiday next week. Oh my God, get a novel. Get a novel. Thank you very much, Holly. What a testament that is, that you're saving it as a treat. But yeah, get involved. I am going to call you Sammy J. I am going to call you Sammy J. Get involved. I hope you have a lovely holiday, Holly. What are you up to? Where are you going? But yes, I think, like you, I did once read I was starting an assistant psychologist job, and I went on holiday before my jobs, and I did read on my sunbed in Spain, in Cadiz, is that how you say it? A book all about like working in forensic populations. I'm sure I looked very peculiar on my sunbed. But yeah, I did once see somebody reading a copy of this, my other book, on a train, and I was not at all cool about it. I was like, oh my God, look, that's me on the back. And they were like, right, because it's a book about grief. They probably don't want to be bothered by random women on the train, do they? Anyway, I'm not at all cool when I spot things. Right, Marianne, stop waffling on. Has anyone got any questions? And what I thought I would do is I would just introduce a bit of a topic. But yeah, so this is the third. I'll finish what I was saying. I got distracted by Sammy J. This is a third in our series this year, but I also did 3 or 4 last year. So yeah, catch up on those on YouTube. They're all there. 2 different playlists, I think. One this year, I think, is called Q&A, and last year is called The Form Live. So, you know, as Unspeakable says on YouTube, subscribe to my channels, and it's all about the watch time, isn't it? So, you know, dive in, folks. Get watching it. Holly, Nicole says, I also have a lovely fiction book to read. I'm off for a week in Kos. Oh God, I'm very jealous. When I was heavily pregnant with my first, we had a wonderful baby moon in Kos, and it was just so luxurious, honestly. It was just lovely. I hope you're going somewhere really lovely. And if you don't yet have children, or even if you do, I hope you don't have to take them with you. I've never had a holiday without children in like 8 years. I'm, you know, kind of maybe thinking about being ready for one. I turned 40 this year, and in an ideal world, I was thinking, you know, go to Vegas, or, you know, do something really cool or memorable. No. Lockdown didn't officially like end until like 2 days after my birthday. So yeah, hope you have a lovely time, Holly. Holly Nicole, I feel like I want to call you your whole name there. So yeah, that's me. That's a little bit about me. And what else have I got to tell you? So I think what is really important is if you're applying for clinical training, that you've really got to make sure that you sound and you read like you absolutely deserve a place on this, you know, declin size. So you've got to make sure that you look like you're capable of writing to doctoral standards, you know, because I'm really concerned sometimes with how people are going to fare with the academic elements of the course. So please make sure there's no typos in there. You know, sometimes we see what we want to see in our own form. I think it can be really useful to ask somebody who is non-clinical psychology to have a read of it as well, because they're often like, what are you even talking about? You know, it needs to make sense, you know, to the plain English campaign. You know, it needs to be not too jargon filled, because you might be, you know, really into your adult mental health, or you might be really into your learning disabilities, or really into neuropsych. But because I'm not in those areas, if I'm, well, I am in adult mental health and I have worked in learning, you know, but if I'm not regularly in those spheres and I'm screening your form and you use loads of jargon or acronyms, I'm not necessarily going to know what that is, and I might not be able to give you points for things on your form if I can't work out what the heck it is you're saying. So just be really plain about it. You know, if you are going to use acronyms, you know, we know what there are, it's like CBT, make sure you've explained what the acronym is first. So I know, of course, that we need to save space, but we've still got to be using appropriate kind of doctoral writing. So I'm not saying you need to use references necessarily, unless you're adding publications, in which case I actually think referencing is really useful. So yeah, I just think you need to really make sure that you are coming across super well in your form, and just bear in mind where in the form someone will first start reading, you know. So they won't get the page with your name on it. You know, look at what the first thing is that you say that they will read, and really think, crikey, is that what I want them to read about me for the first time? You know, we're thinking about first impression. So of course people have to mark your form fairly and all of that, but you want somebody's first impression of you, you know, Sophia, Lena, Sammy J, Holly's, you know, you want them, their first impression of what they read on your form to be, wow, I really want to read more, you know, this has got me hooked, you know, from like page one. I want a piece of that, you know. I want to be on the panel when I interview, you know, Sammy J, Alina, Sophia. They're not going to know your name, are they? But you want them to see how amazing you are, you know, and how capable you are of doing what you want to do, you know. So really try to appraise your form with a compassionately constructive eye, I would say. So not critical, but really think about, you know, another pet hate of mine are brackets. I always think if you're having to use brackets in a sentence, you haven't explained it well enough, you know, or it's too long, or you can put a full stop in there or make it into a shorter sentence. Often, radically, what I find is the bit that you often put in brackets, if you put that at the start of the sentence, you can make it a whole lot shorter and make a whole lot more sense. You know, if you've got some aspect of your form in brackets or in any writing you're doing, I suggest giving that a go, because I find that it's golden, you know. You don't want someone to get to the end of a sentence and be like, what are they saying again? What? They've lost me, because you don't want to lose them. You don't want to lose them for a second. You want to keep them on your page, keep thinking, fighting for you, you know, fighting to want to be able to put you in the freaking yes pile. You know, that's what we want. We want someone to be saying, yeah, I do think that they are pretty much punching a doctoral level standard. Let's invite them in for an interview. That's what we want, isn't it? Sammy J. Oh, I've put the wrong one up. Sorry. Emma came up just at the same time. So I'm a second career person. The application asks about previous work experience, etc. Would it be wise to use this section to list past experiences and to reflect on what that experience afforded me? Yes, it would. So have you got some clinically relevant experience, Sammy J? Or is that your only, you know, have you done your conversion but you haven't yet got like an assistant post or a research post, or, you know, some sort of mental health hospital or, you know, CAMS team post or something? So are you, you know, are you a social worker or a speech and language therapist or something? Because that, of course, is all relevant, you know. Or have you worked in business and now you're like, psychology is just for me, man. So yeah, I think my exact answer really depends on whether you've got any more clinically relevant experience. I haven't got a form with me to look at to see exactly the bit that you need. I have seen forms, of course, but this is not quite sticking in my head which exact section you mean. Do you mean the bit about gaps in your CV, that bit? Or do you mean, you know, the bit about why I'm a better candidate for clinical training? You know, I think it's always really useful, certainly as a form reviewer, to think if they were doing something different, why are they not doing that now? You know, so why are they? Why all the fuss? You know, Sammy J already had a great job. Who's earning damn sight lot more money than he probably is now. Why has he bothered? You know, so I think whilst you might not want to give loads of, you know, space to that, I would want to know that, you know, why is this a bit of you? Yes, I did watch Love Island. I am a 40-year-old Love Island fan. Why is this for you? So I would definitely talk about some of that, but also perhaps thinking about the skills you've got that are transferable. So, you know, if you've worked in a customer service environment, then of course you're really good at building rapport with people. You know, so I worked in Boots and I did customer service, and, you know, I've been in customer complaints. And I think some of those skills, if I'd needed to fill space on my form, would have been really useful to reflect on. And similarly, when I've done home caring, you know, I absolutely learned how to be compassionate there. And those skills are incredibly transferable. So hope that is useful, Sammy J. Let me just scroll up to deselect you. So yeah, about three. So it's either 3/4 of a year AP experience or 3 or 4 years. If it's 3 or 4 years, then I'd say, my friend, I think this might be your year. Fingers crossed. You know, worse things have happened, and things have all gone catastrophically wrong. But it might be that you've written 3/4 of a year. In which case, you know, just you might get in there, especially if you've got some other occupational experience to reflect on. Prior to that, I was a tailor in men's suiting, but had a fair amount of leadership experience. Ooh, very nice. Bet you look particularly dapper. Bet you pick all the nice suits. Do you make your own suits? I feel like I want to know that. You know, and actually, Sammy J, if you still love like suiting, and I want to add booting on the end, sorry about that. You know, if you actually do have a flair for fashion and design, I would absolutely be wanting to see some of that in your form, you know. So, you know, I'm not asking you to put stitches in it. You don't physically send it anymore, do you? It's all electronic. But if that is important to you, you know, in your interests outside of psychology, I'd want you to kind of mention some of that. But you could obviously do that in a way that you can reflect on and make you sound psychology. Okay, so Emma. Hello, Emma. Hello, nice little huggy, smiley, excited thing. I have a question. For the first question, talking about our clinical and research experience, should this be structured in a certain way? So I've covered this in a few of the other lives, so do check back on them. I certainly covered it last year, and I definitely covered it, I think, in live 2 last week, which you can watch on replay on my YouTube channel. But yes, I tend to think that it's useful to reference stuff if you can. So for example, a paper that I'd written up for 2 of my colleagues, you can probably Google it if you want to. It was Cooper Evans, Stubbs, it might have been Stubbs, Cooper Evans, Durran, which is what I was at the time, and Montenegro, and that was 2007, I'm going to say, and it was about walking activity. So, you know, the main title of the article went there, referenced, you know, so it said that. So, you know, publications arising from my work or something like that. So that went in there, and then I did a conference, an international conference presentation of that. So then that went in there again, you know, but with international conference presentation rather than just the full thing. And then I submitted a conference report to the Siege newsletter, which got published, and so that went in there again. But of course, so, and then any other bits that I'd done, you know, I would reference. So I think it makes sense if you've got something you can reference to actually reference it. And if you've got any space, then you can write more about, you know, how your disseminations have. Is that what you mean? No, it's not, is it? It isn't, Emma. I've got the wrong question. I'm thinking about the research, but you said for our clinical and research experience. So the first question, which isn't the big long one, is it? Yeah, I'd say just do you, Emma. So if you don't mean the research one, I would say just do you, because you are special and unique, and you are enough. All of you are enough. And when you can step into that with comfortability, you take a breath here, do some distress tolerance with the idea that you are enough. When you can tolerate that and sit comfortably in your skin and know that actually, my time is now and I'm ready for the right step and all of that jazz, then, you might well be at the right stage of your career to start hopefully getting interviews and stuff. Because I definitely recognised that by the time I got on, I just felt very much more confident in my own abilities, confident in my skills in reflecting, confident in discussing psychological concepts and terms with people, confident in my own skin, and that I was being more of my genuine self and not kind of, really stilted. I've never got on very well with trying to prepare sessions and things for people in advance, because it all goes out the window. The client arrives and there's been some big catastrophe or something's happened, and I get to use it. So once I got to the stage where I was confident to just roll with the changes and to know that I had the theory in the background and the content for the session just available without necessarily prepping every minute of the session in advance, then it was, it just was my time, and I just was ready for the next step, and I was able to talk the talk and walk the walk and come across convincingly. So I hope that answers your question, Emma. Let me just find you to deselect you. Elena, it's the section about additional factors that should be considered. Is that in reference to Sammy J? I think it might be. Yes, the gap section, Sammy says. Sorry, Samuel. Sorry, I'll behave myself. So yeah, I think I've answered that. 750 words. But it's like, is it a character limit as well? It's really tricky, isn't it? It's really tricky. I am definitely pretty verbose, If you can say something in 750 words, I'll say it in 2000. And then I need to keep going back and cutting until I've just got the golden nuggets. You've just got to keep pushing for the golden nuggets, folks. If research methods is not your strongest area, but before starting you want to make it a strength, what would you recommend? So before starting clinical training, or before starting to apply for the DCLIN Psy process? If you mean the latter, before starting to apply for the DCLIN Psy process, I would most definitely grab yourself a copy of this, because lots of people talk about how they've been able to creatively get involved with research projects and opportunities. If you mean to try and suddenly become a research expert before the form deadline, which I think is mid-November, then good luck, because that's quite a lot to try and achieve. So I don't know who you are, LinkedIn user, because you've not given permission on StreamYard, but that's okay. You know who you are, and that's important. That's enough. So I'm going to try and suggest that you mean, more generally before you start to apply. It might be that you want to do not a doctorate, because we know you want to do a doctorate. It might be that you want to do an MSc to strengthen up your research. So I definitely did that. I did mine with Newman University College. I think it might just be called Newman University now, and that really helped me to think critically and how to feel confident in picking apart and discussing research, and of course writing it too. Laurie Lee Jane. Oh, a lovely name. Oh, look, Laurie Lee. it tells me that you're a psychologist, because you come over me. How does that feel? How does it feel to see your name with clinical psychologist underneath it? Looks good. Looks good. I think it's a sign that it's supposed to happen. How do you make your application stand out? You just got to make sure that you do you, you know. I'd say that make sure that it reads like an application from 2021. You know, we don't want it to be too generic. We don't want you to just be parroting out, you know, fashionable terms, just talking about values by flinging them in here and flinging them in there. You know, we don't want you to be just talking about diversity as a kind of buzzword, you know. You, like me, have, you know, you're blonde and white, and so, you know, it's still important that you reflect on diversity, but, you know, you're going to need to make sure that you mention it or discuss it in a way that feels genuine, and not just like you are, you know, parroting out what you think they want to hear this year. But actually, if you've got loads more really interesting points that you want to write about, you know, like COVID, or, you know, other pertinent issues that have occurred to you, or, you know, reflecting points about what you've learned from people or situations, or how you've developed, you know, perhaps this is your second time applying, perhaps it's your third time applying. It can be really useful to reflect on your journey, you know, and how you're ready now. I'm ready now. You know, so I would say just, you know, no one is quite like you, Laurie Lee Jane. I don't know what your name is, but it's beautiful all the same. Is Lee Jane your surname? Is that your middle name? Laurie? Law? Oh, I'm sorry, I'm messing it all up. You've got a beautiful name anyway. No one is quite like you, you know. Nobody has your unique skills, talents, and gifts. No one has done your unique pattern of occupational and educational experiences. And so no one will, you know, be quite like you on paper. So I'd want to make sure that I couldn't muddle you up with anybody else, that it definitely is you. So yeah, however that looks, you know, just make sure that you're not being like a sheep or a parrot. Make sure that you are just being interesting and genuine, I would say. Oh, Sammy J, what are you doing to us? I made my suit for my graduations. I can't make boots. I have included those in my application. Well, you can't make boots, but you'd like to. I worked in boots. Yeah. Imagine if you could make shoes, really nice shoes. That'd be good, wouldn't it? But yeah, pretty snazzy, you know. Making your own suits, that is good. I did some sewing yesterday, Sammy J. I'm not very good at it. Not very good at it. Yeah, my mum made my wedding dress, and she's an amazing seamstress. She used to work for Gossard, so she was into corsetry and all sorts, and has professionally made curtains and things. So, you know, I think she shot just such a high level that, like, she was frustrated with me trying to learn, and it just didn't go in. But yeah, your stitch work is going to be far above me. Like trying to tack in stuff into my swimming costume ahead of going to a spa day with my mother-in-law. Right, stop waffling on, Marianne. Han, hi Han. In the other experiences section, can I add casual volunteering roles I did at college, e.g. at a care home and college-based youth club after school? Yes, you can. And it all makes you, you know, that better candidate. Han, make sure you spell casual right on your form. I'll let you off because I can't type with long nails. And yeah, on social media, everything is fair game. But yeah, this is, you know, this is an example. Sorry to pull up on this, Han, but an example of, you know, quality control for the form. And I'm absolutely get that this is social, this is different, but this is causal, this is not casual. So just make sure that the word you've put in makes sense in that context, but also if it is a word, it's not going to show you it as a thing on Word. So just make sure. So yeah, I absolutely would say that they are incredibly relevant, and you also learned a lot, you know, like I did, about compassion and working with you youth clubs. So I work for Brownies. I'm just going to have a swig of water. I work for the Brownies, and it absolutely taught me loads about the normal spectrum of children's behaviour and all of that jazz, and how to notice when there might be, you know, more problematic stuff. But yeah, most importantly, the Brownies taught me about, you know, normal spectrums of behavior, and it's really useful because working in CAMS, you know, you just see kind of children who are not having the nicest time of it, or not thriving. So it's really nice to see joyful, energized children, you know, that I'm sure you also saw at the youth club as well. So yeah, I'd reflect on some of that and how that's going to help your knowledge, you know, to be, you know, valid, you know, because we don't want to just be seeing problems, you know, we want to be able to see what is normal, you know. So if you were working, for example, in a dietary expansion clinic, then you might well work with people. I once worked with somebody who only ate, you know, dairy milk chocolate, and that is obviously, you know, pretty limited. You don't get much more limited than that. But, you know, a lot of children are more selective, of course. You know, my eldest is a bit more beige foodie, you know, so does sometimes surprise us with the odd, you know, pea or bean or something. But, you know, he's within normal limits, you know, so he's not just eating, you know, smiley faces and, you know, wedges or whatever, because he eats other stuff as well. But, you know, to cut a very long story short, you know, it's just that full spectrum of insider info about children and young people that you're going to be that much better at doing. So yeah, I hope that's okay. So LinkedIn user, sorry, I've just finished work and I'm going to be applying for an AP job. Lovely. Thought it'd be useful to still come to this live for future purposes. It absolutely is. You know, you just can't start soon enough. If you know where you're heading, then it makes sense to make sure that you're pointing in generally the right direction, you know, because otherwise you might find that you career over this way. So it's useful to know where the goals are and to know what the boundaries and benchmarks are to try and get there, you know. So absolutely, LinkedIn user, I salute you. You cannot start soon enough, so you're absolutely welcome. Tori, another beautiful name. My only research experience is from undergrad dissertation. Should I include this within my statement? How can I reflect on this effectively? Yeah, you absolutely can. Did you get it published? Could you still get it published? Could you submit it to publication? Could you get it mentioned in some kind of peer-reviewed capacity if you're not going to publish it? Could you, you know, how long ago was it? You know, we're talking like last year, we're talking like 10 years ago. Could you try and get some sort of publication from your undergrad? But yeah, you can absolutely do that. And also one of the contributors in here, Chrissy, talks about ways to up your research game and get involved, so do check that out as well. So yeah, if that's all you've got, then that's all you've got. But of course you'd probably need to be reflecting on what you hope to gain from clinical training, that section, that, you know, you recognize that your research experience could do with being enhanced, something along those lines. But they will pick up on that, and it might be that, you know, they want, you know, your form feedback might be more stronger research experience is required. But it doesn't hurt to apply, because I think it's always useful to see what feedback you get. And I personally loved reflecting on my form. So my first time around, I felt like it was all right, you know. I probably thought I wouldn't get anywhere, and I didn't. But when I came to read my second, you know, read it the second time around, I was like, oh no, I can't believe I thought that was good last year. Like, oh, so it documents, you know, how far you've come. And then the third time around, I didn't actually look at my second form until after I'd submitted it, because I just thought, I don't. So I think the first time around, I, you know, felt that was all right. Second time around, I used my first form as a basis and kind of amended it and updated it. But the third time around, I felt like a completely different person. So I just started afresh. And I think I only read it, the second form, after I was almost ready to send my third form to see if I'd missed anything. But I was frankly appalled with, you know, what Marianne from 2006 had written, because Marianne from 2007 was just she was ready, and it was her turn for the next step, so to speak. Right. Kate, any top tips for where to start with a personal statement? Having a bit of a battle with myself about how to get me across my reflections, values, and my experience. I would say, you know, what feels particularly pertinent for you right now. You know, what makes you, Kate Robinson, 2021? What makes you current? You know, what have you been doing during COVID times? How has that encouraged you to reflect? How has it encouraged you to develop and to change? So yeah, I would always think about how these values are showing up for you in your, I don't know, in your everyday life. You know, have you got values of, I don't know, integrity, or you know, warmth, you know, compassion, you know, I don't know, like, what are your values? Feel free to share a value if you would like to. But you know, for me, that says that you're just feeling perhaps a little bit overwhelmed. And again, you might find it useful to check out the book, because people talk about, you know, different, it's just sort of just different blends and different flavors and different ways of talking about themselves and different ideas and opportunities. So people have said that it just helps them feel more focused, and, you know, to feel like, yes, okay, all right, they've done it, I can do it. You know, at the end of the day, it's just a form, it's a gateway to get you to the next stage of your journey, you know. So if you think that actually it is your time and you are ready, then you're just going to need to plow in. Just start, and, you know, then you can whittle. I feel like Sammy J would be good at whittling. Then you can whittle, you can refine, you can make it punchier and smaller. So just start. Just talk about your own unique skills, experiences, talents, and interests. Elena, yes, it is. Oh, I'm sorry. The first one is the long one. Yes, it is the long one. I've got a short attention span. I can't remember what the question was. And then Elena says, yes. Tiny characters. Yeah, I know. It used to catch me out all the time. Oh, LinkedIn user says not what I meant. Sorry. It doesn't appear in real time. It's about a minute's delay. So yeah, I didn't catch what that was. Sorry, I hope I've not offended you. Yes, generally. Lorelei, thank you so much. You are more than welcome. Elena, in the question that reads, what do you hope to gain from the training? I intend to elaborate on some new research ideas and ideas for service development. Quite a few. Too much? Too cocky? No. If you've got like stuff that you want to happen in the world of clinical psychology, then why not use this to demonstrate why you are ready, you know, why they need you? Because if they read this and they're like, yeah, that really does need to happen. Yeah, I see what she means, you know, then that's really good. That's your USP, isn't it, Elena, that you've got these great ideas. Does it involve cows? I think you've got cows in your picture. Oh, I've worked with a few cases of people being, you know, having cow trauma. Serious stuff. Hope that you kept safe on the other side of that fence, Elena. Yes, so I'd say, you know, make sure it doesn't read as it is too cocky, that you're going to come in and shake everything up and, you know, upset everybody. But I'd say it absolutely is important. Sammy J, what are your thoughts about extra? If you're just tuning in and you're like, why is she calling him Sammy J? I asked him if I could. Sorry, Samuel James. What are your thoughts about expressing strong views about things like the power imbalances within inpatient settings and the medical model in the application? To you, Sammy J, I'd say we're very similar, because I absolutely reflected on that. It's called the fiduciary relationship. So I reflected on that in my form. And I may have said it wrong because I never had to say it. I think I just wrote it. But at the time, there was a paper that really took my interest on that exact thing, the fiduciary relationship. So the power imbalance between anyone in healthcare, you know, any position of power, be that, you know, academia, be that clinical psychology, be that you know, the GP and the patient, be that, you know, the mentor and the mentee, you know, so that was really interesting to me at the time. So, you know, if you've got some research, some recent research that you can reflect upon and kind of ponder and draw your conclusions, then I'd say that's really useful. So yes, very exciting to see that. Samuel James, I'll behave myself now. Righty hosky. LinkedIn user, this is a long one, I'm going to run out of room for my neck. So I'll keep it on very briefly and then I'll take it off. I can hide from you. Hi, Marianne. I'm just about to finish my dissertation in MSc Psychology next year in March. It's a distance learning conversion course. I have experience in various settings from Pakistan, but not here in the UK. I've been volunteering for the NHS in various settings, such as memory clinics, and currently working as a clinical support worker on an acute medical unit ward in an NHS trust. From your experience, do you think I've got any chance of getting onto an AP role, or would I need to find some? I'm afraid we're missing the end of your comment, so feel free to add the end of that in, because I don't think I can't scroll on that. So I think it's all going to depend rather a lot on, you know, when you put your time frames, your dates in, it's all calculated like exactly now, isn't it, on the form. So if you've been doing those volunteer roles for, you know, full-time hours for the last year, then that of course gives you you know, a year of experience, which is great. But if you've been doing it, you know, 1 day a week for 2 months, then they don't even count that as, like, you know, a week yet. So I think it really depends on how many actual months of experience that gives you. So it might be that, you know, the next couple of years are going to pay you more rich rewards from the application, but I think it all depends on, you know, the quality of your reference is probably quite useful as well. Is it a clinical psychologist? You know, your MSc is great, of course, but I think it all depends on how many actual months / years of experience it accumulates to. So I did an honorary post and I learned so much, but it was just 10 days. So I took some annual leave and did that over, you know, a 3 or 4 month period. So I learned absolutely loads there, and then that allowed me to talk the talk and walk the walk to get my first paid AP post. But on paper, you know, that doesn't even count as a month, so that would, like, you know, not even score me a point. But in terms of my ability to think and to reflect on all things psychology, it was invaluable. Absolutely invaluable. So hope that is useful, LinkedIn user. Right, and yeah, if you want to add in the extra bit, but I think I might have sort of probably got the gist of it, but it was too long. It didn't come up. Emma, can I mention that I'm acknowledged in a paper in the publication section? If so, what should I mention about it? So what do you mean acknowledged? Do you mean that you're like 3rd or 4th author, or author? If not, why? So what do you mean mentioned? Say a bit more. So if you're 3rd or 4th author, what is wrong with me? 4th author, then absolutely it goes on as a publication. But I don't know what you mean by mentioned. I don't know what you mean by mentioned. Sorry, say more. Samuel James, what is key information to include in the dissemination, service evaluations, development projects? Yeah, so obviously your gold standard would be, you know, something, you know, an RCT in a peer-reviewed journal. That would be like maximum, you know, maximum point scoring. If you've got like 8 of those, and you're just going to blow their socks off, aren't you? But if you haven't got those, then it's thinking about, you know, whether you've appeared in a non-peer-reviewed article, and, you know, or whether you've, you know, presented at a conference or something, because that counts as a publication. Service developments and evaluations and projects are great. Could you try and think about getting that somewhere? You know, but yeah, absolutely. So really useful, but of course the gold standard would be, you know, the published research. Could you get involved with someone's published research? Could you be like, you know, really creepy and smarmy and just chat up anyone doing any research, and I'm going to help you with anything, like anything you need, you know, in exchange for, you know, me being on your research team, because that is super useful. You know, you might only need 1 or 2 publications and you're going to look like you know what you're talking about. Emma, could I reflect on my fear of presenting in my application? Yes, you could. Yes, you could. But of course, you need to also think about what I'm doing now is presenting. You know, there's a little bit of teaching, there's a little bit of guidance, a little bit of education there. But, you know, a lot of our job in psychology, so, you know, if you were asked to talk to a client about doing psychoeducation, then that in itself, you know, so my our tricky brain kit involves kind of presentation skills. So yeah, it might be useful to think about what it is about presenting that you find so difficult. You know, would it be helpful to access some mentoring or some coaching or some trauma therapy to help you overcome that? So to do some EMDR or something, if you think there might be some kind of trauma underpinning some of that, and it might be useful to do that before the deadline so you can reflect upon that and talk about, you know, how actually you used to have this fear of presenting, but accessing, you know, appropriate trauma therapy has been a really eye-opening experience for you because it helped you, you know, be freed up from the past, and you can't wait to help clients to be able to do the same again. Written your form for you, Emma. But yeah, if you can reach out to someone and get that sorted, I'd say that's an even stronger case to present, isn't it? Because you recognized a weakness, you recognized how imperative that skill is, you know, to Clin Psych. So you're not just talking about standing up and, you know, presenting your clinical research to your cohort. You're not. It expands and extends so far beyond that. You know, I'd say that presenting skills are really key in psychology because it's not just about PowerPoint. It's not. So if you feel like that is going to get in your way, then I would say that you need to plow on through that and find a way to have that be comfortably within your comfort zones. That is my advice to you. I do EMDR as well, if that's something that would be useful. Tori, oh, sorry, it was in 2019. That's a great idea. Thank you. Yeah, just get busy, you know, with your research. Kate, absolutely overwhelmed, but definitely because I care a lot about the application. Absolutely, and so you should. It is probably the most important form you'll ever write. Be that, you know, be that now, be that next year, be that whenever it's ready. But you know, this really is important, and it does matter. But you matter too. You know, your well-being matters too, and maybe that's something you can reflect on within your form too. Elena. No, it doesn't involve my animal rights activism. Was that what you're doing there? You're like being all like down with cows, down with dairy farming. But you know, that'd be interesting to reflect on as well. Naya, look at your picture, your outfit, you look amazing. Naya A. Gerald Ferguson. Crikey. What a lovely name. I've finished my undergrad degree and I'm interested in the Declin site in the future. I'd like to try an AP role along with everybody else. Join the queue. Is this a good way to gain experience? What is your opinion of getting work experience straight after your first degree? And is it possible? So, yes, I was there. I absolutely graduated in 2002 and was like, oh, well, I'm going to apply for AP posts. Why aren't I getting shortlisted for AP posts? I've got a psychology degree, you know, because I was just a little bit naive at that time. And anyway, I didn't have any time to do an AP post because I was about to go off traveling. So I don't know what I was doing, probably just ego tripping. But it's very unlikely if you're fresh out of undergrad that you'll get shortlisted. But if you've done a placement year as an assistant psychologist for a year as part of your degree, then of course it's very much more likely that you'd be shortlisted straight from degree because you have a whole year of being an assistant already. but the majority of people have to do relevant experience. So I did home caring, I did some work at uni. You can look on the last replay to hear me talk about all of my experience, but I'd supported stable students, and I worked as a rehabilitation assistant for people with physical disabilities. So I do all these relevant things, which is the way that I'd say the majority of people earn their stripes, is to do work not directly under a clinical psychologist, but to, you know, learn about people, learn about supporting people. So that, you know, absolutely you might manage it. You know, some people probably do, especially if they've got a first. You know, they might be able to talk the talk and walk the walk and be, you know, have the gift of the gab and all of that. But I would say the majority of people, in my experience, have done some sort of relevant experience before going on to get an AP post or a research assistant post. Hope that is useful. Just aware we've got about 10 minutes left, guys. So if you have questions, fling them my way. I'm just going to have a quick drink and then I will plough on. Right. Okay, Elena says, I have a few points around low and high intensity in CAMS in particular. No cows. No cows. Holly Nicole, who's off to COS very soon. Jealousy. I recently started working as an AP with the NHS. Congratulations. And the hub has funding until March 23. I'm a little unsure when will be the best time to apply. Go for it now or wait until next October. I won't tell them about you being, oh, you have to say fixed term contract, don't you? I think, because it asks you whether you're like substantive or fixed term. The hub might be extended unless it's like, is it a COVID hub? In which case we hope it won't be extended. We hope it'll all be done and dusted. But then, of course, long COVID is a thing. Anyway, stop waffling, Marianne. What's to stop you? You know, if you can afford the fee. I guess it probably depends how much relevant experience. So in reflection on Naya's point, depends how much relevant experience. So you might choose to just really spend, you know, a year reading my book and just like going for it, just thinking, how can I spend, you know, this next 14 months until the next form is due, making sure that whoever picks up my form is like, Holly is so ready for this, you know. So could you tap into all of the ideas that reading the book will spark for you in COS as you read it? I won't mind if you take a highlighter and highlight it, you know, fold down the pages, make it yours, you know. I was always brought up not to do that to a book, but some books that have really resonated with me, I've just had to do that because it's like, just want this book within my skin, within my veins, you know. So knowing what I know now, I wasn't ready the first and second time. I was ready the third time. But then some people do say they like to see perseverance. You know, they like to see you showing up and getting better. So it's really up to you. But, you know, if some courses offer, so if the course you're applying to offers selection tests and then only offers interviews to the top people in the selection tests, then you might well apply because you might get really lucky. Well, not lucky, like skilled. You know, there's no luck in this, is there? It's your skills and talents which get your bums on seats. So yeah, I would say it really depends on the courses you're applying to and whether they have access tests for all or whether they only invite the top people to access tests. And it also depends on what experience you've had. Do you feel ready for clinical training now, Holly, or do you think you'll feel more ready next year? You know, so I know there's been some funding stuff with you know, certain trades in psychology, which was brand new this year, but they've deferred that for a couple of years, and actually the AP route is not affected by that. But congratulations on your AP post, because that is a big deal. So by the time I got onto training, I'd had like 16 months of paid AP work and 6 months of paid NHS AP work. So I'd only worked in the NHS as an assistant for 6 months, but I'd done years and years and years of relevant experience, including my AP, and I was, just comfortable in my own skin and talking about psychological concepts and terms and trying to help people to get better. How effective I was as an assistant, I don't know. I was a very good assistant, but I'm a good clinical psychologist now, and I think it's often easy to compare ourselves to where we are now compared to then. If I was having to do my job now with the skills I had then I'm just, wasn't skilled enough. I just wasn't, because it wouldn't have been appropriate for me to expect myself to be. Does that make sense? You wouldn't expect an assistant to be comfortably able to do the job of a qualified clinical psychologist who was doing it 10 years, because if she was, then why would she need clinical training? So I've absolutely advanced, and I hope to continue to advance in my career, which is all useful reflection points. Holly, this time next year, you'll look at where you are now and you'll be like, oh, God, like, I've really come so far. So yeah, do what you think works for you. Callum, currently working on a meta-analysis for publication. Ooh, yes, fingers crossed. Should I reference this with date to be confirmed? Yeah. What I did in your position was I'd already started the wheels for processing publication, so I knew when it was going to be published. I think I knew the article and the references before it went in. So if you have already kind of had it pre-accepted, could you put then the journal article, or could you write it up as, Thomas brackets C 2021 to be submitted to, I don't know, like if you haven't got anything else to write, you could, something like that. But yeah, sounds great, Callum, well done you. I was actually thinking that, Sammy J. I was actually thinking, bribe them with a lovely suit. Where'd you get your fabrics from? When I was with my mum buying my fabrics, we went and bought them from the fabric market in Birmingham, which is like a fascinating place. Yeah, and we ended up going to this like shop, and it's just full of wonderful fabrics. And I've got my the Duchess satin. You'll be like, I know what Duchess satin is. Well, you don't probably get many suits made out of Duchess satin, but I bet you could get a really nice lining. But you could get a really nice lining out of a Duchess satin, couldn't you? So yeah, where'd you get your fabric from? Make me something, Sammy J. I'm not a boy, but I am actually genuinely looking for a nice jacket, so that I'll commission you to make me a jacket. Yeah, bribe them with clothes, definitely. But it's very unique, very unique. I've never met another aspiring clinical psychologist who is a freaking brilliant suit maker, like Taylor, sorry. Yeah, just brought back the smell of Taylor's chalk then. Like, where's that been stored in my brain? Really interesting stuff. I love the way that the brain stores stuff, and it can be a direct route to different memories. I think it's fascinating stuff. LinkedIn user. I popped away for a couple of minutes to buy your book. Oh, thank you. Being surrounded by this conversation today has been so helpful. Oh, I'm thrilled. This is why I do this, why I do it for free. And I know I do reference my paid stuff, but you absolutely don't need to buy anything from me ever if you don't want to. That will enrich your life, make you a better human if you do. Joking, obviously. But yeah, I am passionate about empowering you lovely people to get to where you want to be, because I was absolutely in your position, a little over 10 years ago. Well, no, probably about almost 15 years ago. Yeah, so you might be like, oh, she's so old, but I still feel really strongly connected to wanting to help, the Marianne from 15 years ago, because I absolutely would have been all over that book. And I was about to swear there. I am a bit sweary, but I feel like I have to not swear while alive. I absolutely, would have been all over that, smashing it out the park and just doing everything to just get to be where I wanted to be. You know, I'm really quite focused and determined. So yeah, don't forget, if you do buy the book and you leave me a review, if you send me a copy of the verified purchase review, you can win a one-to-one with me, and the expiry date for that is, as I said, a week on Sunday, so Sunday the 24th of October 2021. And I should also say, if you would like to explore the opportunities to work with me or for me for actual money, then do sign up to my opportunity that I have shared on all of my socials, and I didn't get the link ready, but you can join my mailing list to be kept in the loop. Information coming very soon about the first of those opportunities. If you are like, I kind of like her, I'd like to be in her world, then do get involved with that. Let me see if I can find it for you. Probably not. Yeah, talk amongst yourselves, people. Feel free to fling in some last minute questions if you have them, although we are running out of time because I do want to watch Squid Game. Anyone else watching that? So good. So good. Episode 4 I watched the other day and I was like, oh my God, it was so good. We had to dive in and watch the next episode. It was so good. But then episode 5 wasn't quite as good. Yeah, it wasn't quite as good. Okay, here it is. Let's see if I can find the link so I can pop it in the comments. I believe it's here. I should have had this ready. Sorry, guys. Here we go. So if you're like, yeah, I would like more of her, or you might be like, I never want to see her again. That's okay too. Here we go. Let me pop this in here and it will come up as, it will come up as separate comments. There we go. So that should come up hopefully on whatever platform you are watching on. There we go. So that is how you can register to stay in my world. Sammy J, don't ruin it. Was awesome. I'm still like 2 episodes to go, so I'm going to be doing the penultimate one today. Yeah, don't be a spoiler, Sammy J, otherwise I'll cancel my suit order. Anvita, do you have any advice on how to write concisely while being detailed enough? I would just say start non-concisely, start in your verbose way, and then whittle down, whittle. So start big on paper, or Word document, whatever you're doing, and then just refine, you know, until you've got the bits that you just can't not include. And Vita, I understand both RA and AP experience is extremely important, but do you have an advice on figuring out what sort of experience might be the most beneficial? No, there is no, you know, panacea. There is no one size fits all. This is your perfect recipe for clinical training. And certainly within the book, there are many, many different paths to the same goal or similar goal. So, you know, if you are more interested in research, then I would say go into research. You know, if you're more interested in, you know, people and, you know, I don't know, compassion and easing distress on a bums on seats level, because of course research does that still, but if you actually want to be the person that does that directly, then you might, you know, you might be more well placed for the AP. But if you, you know, if you want to carve out the research to help people advance the treatment, then you might be more AP, RA, but that's absolutely unique for you. Naya, I've got 2 years postgrad experience working with children and young people with mental health problems, learning difficulties, etc. Perfect. Then you might well, yeah, be well placed to start getting AP interviews. Danielle, I'm a psychology undergrad and I'm completing my health psychology master's. Great. I've worked in inpatient units, primary care and the community. Would I still need to get an AP position applying to do my doctorate? Not necessarily, but it does rather help you to advance your skills in applying clinical psychology. So that would be useful. So I would say you're probably quite well placed to perhaps get an AP interview, although I know they're rare and it's still incredibly competitive. Yeah, what do you want, Danielle? You know, if you could design your ideal opportunity, would it be that you want to do AP? You know, because that might answer your question as well. I'm aware that I had a question messaged to me earlier, so I'm just going to make sure that I cover that. Let's find it. Yes, I wear specs. Fairly newly, actually. Destiny says, I'm currently writing my personal statement to apply for a Clin Psych Masters at a few universities. I was wondering if you had any advice about standing out on a personal statement. Also, if I had to include a research proposal to demonstrate original new ideas and appropriate methodology, how would you go about doing this? Many thanks, Destiny. So I think I've probably answered some of those questions within this live, to be honest. So yes. Research has got to be relevant to you, you know, so what's important to you? What would you want to research? You know, there's lots of things I could think about researching right now, but that would be, you know, genuine to me, but perhaps not that genuine to you. So I hope I've answered the stuff about applying and what to write within this live, but if not, give me a shout. We are fast running out of time because Squid Game is beckoning me, people. I have to get reading really fast. Yes, you will, Elena. But, you know, you'll be on holiday, so you'll have all the time in the world. But, yeah, if you want to enter the competition, you have to start writing your review and make sure that it's submitted in time to be published by Amazon before the deadline. Whilst I was popping away to buy your book, I also signed up. I'm clearly fangirling today. That's nice. You know, I'm pleased to have fangirls on board. Sammy saying Squid Girl was awesome. Can't stand it in the past tense when I'm still in the midst of it. Emma says, thank you so much for your answers. I just want to ask, how can I show my personality through the activities and interest section of the application? Just do it. You know, if you're into singing, then talk about your singing. You know, you could talk about, you know, noticing the mental health impact that has on you and being around other people. And there's evidence, you know, that it lowers your cortisol levels, or, you know, if you're, I don't know, I was about to say if you're in a barbershop quartet, you know, but that's also singing, and I do not sing. So where is this coming from? You know, if you are into designing your own tracksuits, put that. That was a bit of Sammy J there. Sammy J is like, oh, never wear a tracksuit. You know, absolutely. So, you know, I, at the time of applying, was really into my Pilates, and my core still wishes I was. But yeah, 2 children in the cesarean section, and life has meant that I do a lot less than I used to. Yeah, but you absolutely need to show them what's unique about you, Emma Jewett. You know, hair goals, nice hair. What is unique about you? You know, you've got to get that in there, because you're not just a psychologist. You know, you are so much more to so many people as well. You know, I think what was really interesting is when I started clinical training is I was suddenly in a room with 14 other people who were all also training clinical psychologists, and I was like, oh, I don't feel that special. I'm used to being like the psychologist, you know. I've been really excited for the last few months because I've, you know, been off traveling and doing fantastic things, and I knew I was coming on to clinical psychology training, and that made me, you know, pretty snazzy. And now I'm just like nothing. So that was a weird time to try and carve out feeling good enough, you know. So if you suddenly get on training, you're like, I'm just useless. There's nothing special or unique about me. Then just know that that's probably quite a normal experience to go through. Sammy J says, it's been a pleasure. No, you're welcome. It's been a pleasure for me as well. I'm sorry that I keep calling you Sammy J, but I think you'll always be Sammy J to me. Does your mum call you it? Thank you for your ongoing support. It's invaluable. Best of luck, everyone. Oh, who wouldn't want to be on Team Sammy J's team? So yeah, that's also important. When I was doing interviews, I was absolutely like, would I be comfortable borrowing a £5 from them? You know, if I forgot my purse, would I be able to say, Sammy, I'm really sorry. It's really embarrassing, I know, but would it be, oh, I forgot my wallet, could I borrow a £5? And Sammy J would be like, yeah, hell yeah, I'm coming to the cafe with you. Let's go, Marianne. And I'd be like, yeah, Sammy J. Oh God, right. You can tell I've been up since 5:30. A tweed tracksuit, nice. On that note, dear friends, it has been an absolute pleasure. If you'd like to get involved to win the one-to-one with me, and you might be like, I don't want to do a one-to-one with you, Marianne, then still leave your verified purchase review, but you don't need to send it to me, because I'm only going to be able to enter you into the draw if you do indeed send me it, because otherwise I'm not going to know who you are because of GDPR and all that jazz. Okie dokie. So it's been lovely. You know, do have a look at the books. If you're into grief or you'd like to learn more about grief for your own purposes, all psychologists should know about grief. This is a unique collection of 54 stories written by people who have grieved about their experiences. And I just think it's really, really powerful. So yeah, do bear that in mind as well, especially if you're being a fangirl, because, you know, yeah, you know, my kids aren't going to be able to pay their own way for some time. I got bills to pay. I feel a bit like Destiny's Child. Right, it has been, you might be like, who's Destiny's Child, Marianne? You are so 2007. Right, it's been a pleasure. Wishing you all the best of luck. Let me know if I can help with anything. Stay in my world, join my mailing list, and get involved with all these good things. I feel like there's more important things I should be telling you as well, and I've forgotten all of them. But yes, thank you guys. Hope you find this useful. It will be available on replay. Enjoy Squid Game. I will. So nice to see you all. Take care. Have a lovely rest of evening. Bye, guys.